Listen, brothers, the fire is burning brighter. Tracks and Tackle Supply is officially open. We've got tough apparel built for real hunters. Shirts, hoodies, and hats that carry our message loud and clear. Plus scrape ropes from our brothers at Scrape Rope Company, a wide variety of game calls, whitetail minerals, attractants, and custom baits from High Octane Custom Baits. This isn't just a store. It's the next step in our hunting family. Every purchase goes straight back into the Tracks and Tackle podcast. Keeping the stories real, the traditions alive, and the campfire burning for the next generation. Head to tracksandtackle.com right now. Gear up, support the show, and hunt your hunt. Nature is our playground. Let's get after it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Roundtable Session on the Tracks and Tackle podcast, your hunting camp away from camp. I'm your host, Ron Mentzer. Tonight, we're going to keep the fire going strong, even though my usual co-host and brother-in-arms can't make it. Stepping in tonight in the hot seat with me is the one and only Mr. Cookbook himself, Josh Buchman. Josh, brother, how you doing, man? Glad you're here to keep me honest tonight.
Well, yeah, man, I'm here. I'm excited to talk, Chris. I mean, it's a cool topic what Chris brought up, and I hear we got some other big news to announce, so I'm ready to hear all about that.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Yeah, so tonight we've got a returning friend of the show. This guy bleeds competitive archery, spends his time coaching the next generation of shooters, and he really understands the power of camaraderie at the target range. I want you guys to just help me welcome back Buck Mentzer. Buck, brother, it's always good to have you on the show. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. That's good to be back. Good to be back on. I've actually got a free minute tonight to sit down with you guys. Those are hard
trying to
come
line
by here
schedules
lately.
up.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, normally we're out chasing whitetails or talking turkeys or smallmouth, but once a month we're going to pull up some chairs around the fire for a roundtable session. And that's what we're rolling in tonight. Tonight we're going to be diving into what it means to grow up in rural America. What does home really mean to each of us? When you close your eyes and that word pops into your head, where does your mind go? And if we got some time, we're going to talk a little bit about, maybe somebody that's shaped us into who we are today. So this is what Tracks and Tackle is all about: camaraderie, stories, keeping those traditions alive, where nature is our playground. So let's get into it. All right, guys, how you all doing tonight, man? Who wants to start off? It's been a while, Buck. How's your schedule doing?
It's still busy. It's summertime now, so in the middle of all the competitive archery and traveling, we're also trying to make hay at the farm. So
Right. It's always
Busy
something.
time. It's tough right now with all this rain, too.
yeah, find a weather window and you got to run with it when the weather gives it to you. So
That's right.
Well, I know you got some good, some news you want to break, and I wanted to maybe kick off the show with that. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what's going on in the competitive archery world, and what's been going on in your neck of the woods.
Well, as always, we're always out shooting, and as Ron knows, he's known me forever. I'm not afraid to talk to people, and I like to interact with people, and that's finally got me somewhere a little bit. I was just accepted onto the hunt staff for the outdoor group, representing elite bows, ultra arrows, slick trick broadheads, and there's two other smaller groups, but they're the three main companies that I'm using product for. So that was
That's
that
awesome,
was my
man.
big news this week. It was kind of getting these text messages and emails, and next thing I'm on the phone with the rep from Elite, and we're talking. Hey, welcome aboard. This is what we want you to do. So
Wow. Man, that's incredible. Congratulations.
I can definitely tell you it wasn't something I was expecting.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
guess as dad, more so than the coach, I do all this to try and set my kids up for that. So like when it comes full circle and it lands in my lap, it's like, well, I'm not going to not run with it because that's what I'm trying to set the precedent and for my kids
Yeah.
Right.
to see what is out there for them. So, and not just my biological kids, but the kids in the archery club, the kids on the archery team, it's let them see what's out there, and you don't have to be a world champion archer or the top of the class archer. You just have to know how to represent yourself and the brand, and, it goes a long ways with
Yeah,
people.
dude, that's awesome.
I can dig it, man.
So now what we got to do is all these tracks and tackle guys got to be shooting ultra arrows. I know not everybody's gonna run out and buy a new bow this year, but I got to get some ultra arrows and these quivers and some slick trick broadheads and these quivers
All
now
right.
for all these guys, that are out slaying these animals. So I can do
You
my
got a
part.
good group of guys that'll comply, I'm pretty sure, you got a good group of guys
Yeah.
that you can influence.
That's
So,
the plan.
all right, well, yeah, let's talk more about that and see what we can do to just coordinate with everybody and really push that product. I'm sure we'll link to everything in the show description, and we'll encourage anybody that's watching or listening, go out and check and give those fine folks
Yeah, and as
give
I
them
try some of this stuff, and as I start messing with more of the product, I'll be sharing with the group. So
That's what we need. That's what we
Sure.
need. Well, that's pretty cool, man. For anybody that, certainly we know you, and you've been on the
Yeah.
show multiple times, and we go way, way back. But for anybody that is just tuning in for the first time and has never watched or listened to the podcast, why don't you give a quick introduction, who you are, what you're about, what you're involved in, and set the table here before we get into the roundtable topic.
So my right name is Matt. That my mother will tell you it's Matthew, but I've been known as
Yeah.
Buck forever. And some circles that's all I'm known as. So, but I grew up in a small town, Adams County, Pennsylvania. And just when you think a small town, and it's what it was. We had a little store, and you knew all your neighbors. You know, we hunted, we fished, we rode bikes together with the neighborhood kids. We lived outdoors, just like we talk about on here all the time. We lived outdoors, and um, you know, I never left home. I've went away and can't. I've not like stayed away. I've traveled a little bit, but I literally moved half a mile from where I grew up.
He's still in the old
So
neighborhood.
yeah, yeah. I live next to the house you grew up in now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
but
that's it. So we can talk about growing up, and certainly I'm sure you got some stories you could tell. I was thinking this week about like memories of because we were tied at the hip when we were young, and so we got some stories we can tell on one another and things like that. But yeah, that's the topic tonight. We want to get into what does that look like, rural America? Because there's this nostalgic piece. We talk about tradition and things of that nature. Josh, I know I've heard you and Chris talk about how you guys grew up, but why don't you just share some of what does home mean to you? When you think
Well,
of it.
let me just say this. A big lesson my grandfather taught me very early on was after they cut the hay and they sow the field, they go out there and they spread that cow manure out there. Okay. That's home.
Right?
You drive through Carroll County this time of year, it's starting to get a little warm. They're refertilizing the fields, man. My grandfather always told us, put the windows down, take it in, because this is what it smells. This is home, you know, these farm fields, the country. And that was literally my ride home from work today. Chris sent me the topic for this. And I was like, man, that's it right there. Carroll County, baby. Cow.
Smells can bring back memories.
For sure.
I think of when I smell like the rubber from your tires on asphalt, I'm taken back to the old pickup truck windows, the little triangle window that when you were burning a heater, you could flick your ashes out the window. on the old trucks that, wound down the window. Like I just, for some reason, the smell of hot asphalt on a summer day takes me back to an old pickup truck ride.
Heck yeah.
You know what I mean? So smells can bring back
Oh,
memories.
yeah. Yep. Anyway, I still live. I mean, just like Buck was saying, I still live in the same county I grew up in. I mean, I grew up a little further away, maybe 10 miles up the road from where I'm at now, outside of the city hub of Westminster. We lived in just a small little town called Silver Run, little back alley road in a log cabin my dad built. And I mean, I know you guys have heard Chris say it 1,000 times. We grew up in the 90s like kids in the 50s because my dad was a preacher and he literally made $75 a week. So, like, we didn't have money, we didn't have TV, we were outside in the woods. But because our dad was the preacher, all the neighbors were like, your kids can do whatever they want. Just, don't trash anything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we had free reign of all the woods and the farm fields and stuff. We could just carry our 22s or take our little creek fishing rods and go catch creek chubs all day. I mean, we lived in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Like Buck was saying, there's one little grocery store about 2 miles away we could ride our bikes to. I mean, that's what we did. We hunted, fished, rode our bikes, and played baseball. That was our life.
Buck, how far do you think the store was from where we grew up? It's a couple miles, right?
2 miles, 2.5 miles, maybe. It seems
I mean-
longer when we were kids. It seemed like forever when we were kids riding our bike there. Now it's like, oh, you're there.
Go to the
Yeah.
store, get a soda or whatever. We
A
had
glass bottle Coke.
a glass bottle soda.
A glass bottle
We had
soda.
between where Buck lived and where I lived, there was a creek that separated us. And there's this an old metal bridge, and the saying, your mom would say, if one of your friends would jump off a bridge, would you do it? Well, that's what we did. That we would jump off this bridge into the shallowest water. It was probably, less than 2 feet of water, but we would jump off because it wasn't that high of a bridge. But I mean, for kids, it was high enough for an exhilarating summertime fun. And we just climb out on the edge of the bridge and hop into the water and, get scolded by the passerbys when they're driving by, seeing us do that sort of stuff, just as kids. But that's the sort of stuff we would get into, man. We would just, like you said, outdoors, riding bikes and things like that. So, Buck, I want to go to you, and I'm just going to pose a question just to get the conversation rolling. But what was a day in the life of Buck like, growing up?
I mean, where we want to go with that? Are we talking the teenage years or the little
Whatever
guy
you
years?
want, dude. Whatever. We're sitting around the campfire right now.
Well, I mean, as you know, Ron, you were kind of done. You were the same way. There was never summer vacations looked different here. Mom and dad didn't get a babysitter. Dad was self-employed, so you went to work. I was like 9 or 10 years old. I got paid $1 a day. Dad paid me
Yes.
$1 a day, and then he told me, when you can learn to read this tape measure, I'll bump you to $2 a day when you learn to read this tape measure. So I knew how to read a tape measure pretty young because, I knew what $1 was pretty young too. So, there was when Ron talks about the triangle windows, man, that took me back to the work vans because
Yep.
our work vans never had AC in them, man. They had the triangle window though, and if you angled that thing just right, the air would just hit you right in the chest, and even though it was 100 degrees outside, it still felt great, and the van only went 40 mile an hour too. It wasn't like you were flying down the road, but it felt like you were flying down the road.
So, Josh, Buck's dad and that side of the family had a construction company and a construction business. My dad and my side of the family had a construction business. And so when there was, a big project like a house or, summertime, there's a roof, more hands make the work light. So framing up or pouring concrete or laying cinder block or those real tough construction jobs, we would sort of combine forces to get the job done quicker. You know, we'd help them and they'd help
Right.
us. And I remember, I mean, I could tell you so many stories. So Buck, I know I was 9 years old when I had lost summer vacation privileges. All
Yep.
right. Because we used to ride bicycles around, and here's what happened. My dad got a load of firewood, and I was to split the firewood. And on top of splitting the firewood, I was to like mow the grass and like keep up the yard work so that he didn't have to come home at the end of the day and take care of that stuff. But, you know, Buck and me and the other neighborhood kids, like we wanted to play baseball and go, you know, horse around like Josh, you were saying. So what we would do is we would pull forces just like was modeled for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had a lawnmower and Buck had a lawnmower and the neighbor kid up the road had a lawnmower, and like we'd knock out the landscaping real quick and we would hit the chores and knock them out. And like by 9-10 o'clock in the morning, we had our work done and we could go play a game of baseball or whatever, you know?
Bingo.
And so we were working smart at a very young age.
Mhm.
But I think like that said, you know, to my dad at least, he's like, all right, boy, you think you're smart. I'm going to put you on this
Yeah.
roof and you're going to toss shingles to us.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%.
Oh man, that's funny.
So I feel
That's-
pretty good about it though, because I was getting paid twice what Buck. We've never talked about salary back then, but I was making $2 an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like 12 years old till I got paid hourly.
Yeah.
I was on the day rate until I was about 12.
Yeah.
So we started young, and that's what we learned, how we learned our work ethic, and both of us, you know, hated it then, but appreciate it now. You know what they made us do.
100%. That's the only way Dad's only going to know that I appreciate it if he watches this podcast, because I will never admit to it if he asks me. But I'm
Now
grateful
he better
for,
he better watch.
he better watch, yeah. But then he'll know. You know, I'm grateful for all them summers that was it. You know, but you know that's why we're where we're at today, and you know that's what makes you who you are. It shaped you.
Yeah. Yep. Didn't like it in the moment, but we like it now.
Yeah. That's how Chris and I were too. Exactly the same way. Summertime hit, and our see now for us it was our grandfather. He was a pretty predominant farmer in the state of Maryland. Summer vacation. There's no such thing as summer vacation. I mean, like you guys were saying, we were putting hay away. Chris will tell you a funny story about him saving my life in top of a haymow. That was a pretty funny story. He grabbed me by my belt and saved me from going off the edge. That was pretty cool. When I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. Maybe he was 12. So I mean, we cut from the same
That's hard
cloth,
work.
man. I think. Oh, dude, it's a lot of hard work. Plus, I mean, I know it's crazy now because this is what I do for a living now. But my grandfather owned, when he retired, my grandfather was the type of guy, he couldn't sit still. So he rented out his farmland, but he couldn't just sit and do nothing. So he put up 6 greenhouses just as something to do, and started propagating annuals and your produce vegetables like your broccoli and your stuff that you can grow in the market packs. And
Yeah.
that's what he did in his retirement. So that's what Chris and I did when we turned 15 and 16 years old, is we were working in the greenhouses all summer. So, man, it's just how
Got
it
that
is,
good
man.
cheap labor.
Yeah, but I think we were making better money than you guys. I mean, I think we were getting at least $20 a day, maybe.
Listen, I'm sure you guys were making better money than we were. So
Yeah. I think that's how it is. I think you can make a better living down in Maryland than you can in PA. I think they pay
And
more down there.
no one ever
Yeah.
accused my dad of paying the best either. So
I remember, you know, so we grew up obviously in the same neighborhood. We played baseball growing up, not just like neighborhood sandlot games, which we did, but, you know, we played baseball competitively together. Had some pretty good teams and stuff. But I
we played on a
remember,
lot of good teams.
yeah, I remember, you know, I don't know, games start at 6 or 6:30 or, you know, whatever time the ball game starts. and it's going on 5 o'clock, 5:30, and we're still on the roof, nailing shingles on the roof in the summertime. And, Buck talked about the work truck. It didn't go that fast, but we had to change out of our work clothes into our baseball uniforms many times going down the road
Oh man,
in the back of
those
the work van
polyester.
to get it done,
Yep.
man. But
Those-
good on our folks. They always got us there.
100%.
Those old polyester Little League baseball uniforms, man. I can just,
Yeah.
I can feel the pants right now.
You can feel the pants that you're trying to put on in the front of the work van while you're soaking wet sweating because you just got done roofing already.
All I ever wanted was a swimming pool. After working all day and then going and, playing a baseball game until 7, 8 o'clock at night, you get home about 8:30, and all I wanted to do was just jump in the pool. Well, we didn't have a pool, until, I was a teenager and I wasn't hanging around the house anymore, playing baseball anymore. And then my folks got a pool for the grandkids. So my folks got a pool eventually. And I don't know, I probably in it maybe like 2 times in my whole life.
Yeah, we never got to the pool part. We never made it to the pool. Dad always just said, go make friends with somebody that has one. Go swim and make
Exactly.
friends with somebody that has one. Not like he would have drove us there either, but, that would have been a whole nother. We'd have had to figure those logistics out,
Been another arm wrestling contest.
Yeah.
Did you guys ride around in the bed of pickup trucks?
Yeah, we did. I mean, definitely when I was younger.
I didn't so much because we didn't have a pickup truck. Dad had the work truck. Dad didn't really have a pickup. We had the work van. That was like our ride.
Yeah.
I've been on some adventures in the back of the work van, like, not just up the street. I'm talking adventures, like
Nice.
riding 4 hours to hunting camp, in the back, and my sister, you gotta get my sister to tell the story. She tells it so much better, like, oh, we're sitting there and the saw blades are swinging past your neck and, stuff's falling off the shelf and hitting you. It's a wonder we survived, but we did.
Yeah.
Grew up and you got character from it. Well, why don't you give me some funny stories or life lessons from when you were younger? Any takeaways? Like, what did you learn from growing up in that type of an atmosphere, guys?
Well, our small town was truly small town USA because we talked about the baseball. That bridge that Ron talked about. Well, that was the line for the school districts, and that was the dividing line between rival school districts. But you would have not known that they were rival school districts when we were kids, even the whole way through high school, because the guys we played Little League baseball with, half of us went to one school and half of us went to another school. As we grew up, some of my best friends didn't go to the same school as me. I looked forward to getting off of that school bus at the end of the day because I was going to go see my friends. It wasn't that I
Yeah.
didn't have any friends in the school I attended, but that my friend group was predominantly not in the same school as me until I was a teenager, and that changed. But, them, from 7, 8 years old to 13 or 14 years old, them Little League baseball days, Pee Wee baseball, Teen League, some of my best friends didn't even go to school with me. They were the kids you seen once you got off from school. So
We grew up probably less than a quarter of a mile apart, but that creek ran between us. And so Buck went to one school and I went to another. And we're a year apart in age, so we're pretty close. And yeah, man, I mean, a lot of the Buck's classmates and stuff, they were my friends as much as, people that went to my own school. I remember my school bus got home and dropped me off like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes before Buck got home. And so that was enough time to change my clothes and get on my bicycle and go down, and I'd be waiting for him to get off the bus to hang out and
Yeah.
tear in, get into some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
many days. So, but in similar fashion, Josh, to what you were talking about, like all the neighborhood parents, they all knew us, and if we didn't always hang out at the same house, it rotated. Ron's house was the home of off the roof wiffle ball, Yeah. That was what Ron's house was famous for, was the off the roof wiffle ball. But
You'll have to
we
explain that so people know what that means, though.
But we got around to to different people's houses and different parents, and they all treated you like you were their own kids. So, and as we grew older, some of that never changed. Some of the people moved out of the neighborhood, and different people moved in. But for the most part, the core group of people stayed the same here at home. When you say
Right.
home, like Ron was talking about earlier, when you close your eyes and think of home stayed the same. So
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? What about you? Life lessons from growing up in rural small town USA.
Don't run through the woods. Don't run through the woods. And on 2 separate occasions, growing up in Silver Run, Maryland, I was running through the woods and one time ran face first into a barbed wire fence that was never taken down. That was instance
Wow.
number 1. Yeah, it was terrible. Instance number 2, I forget what we were doing. We might have been early season scouting for my dad. So this might have been like late August when I was like 7 or 8 years old. And my dad's telling me not to run around, not to run around, and I start running around, kicking everything up, and I just happened to kick up a yellow jacket's nest, and got stung about 37 times.
Yeah,
So
that'll get you moving.
that's a big life lesson. Don't run through the woods. I learned that very young.
We had apple orchards, peach orchards. Like there were a lot of orchards and fruit farmers around our area.
Mm-hmm.
And so you said about running through the woods. I was thinking about running through the orchards. And if you're not the lead dog in the pack, one of those apple trees, those were good switches. And you know what I
Oh
mean when
yeah.
I say switches,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you got a buddy running in front of you and you're trailing him by 6 or 7 yards, and one of them come
Wing.
back and smack you, man, that'll cut your face.
I know. I know.
That'll cut
That's
your
a
face.
big thing. That's actually a big thing with me when you're hiking or like, so I have Cody hangs out with me a lot and he's kind of new to a lot of this.
Right?
So like when I'm walking through the woods, if he gets in front of me and he doesn't hold that branch back from me, I'm gonna get a little crappy with it.
Yeah. So
For
that's a life
sure.
lesson, right?
For sure. Oh yeah. You got to be courteous with that branch.
Those branches were also real good where when the apples were, just forming, maybe about the size of a golf ball, you could put, if you got the right switch, man, and you could put one of those little
Oh,
apples on the end of it, it made an awful cool weapon. And we would fling those suckers and they would go
well,
forever.
would you call it an apple-addle?
It was an apple-addle. Yes. Very, very similar. Well, we talked a little bit about life lessons, talked a little bit about, some memories. If you guys got anything else you want to throw in there, that's cool. The question really, I guess, that I wanted to get to at the heart of this is like how rural life shaped our work ethic, our problem solving, how we look at things. And I think, Buck, you touched on that a little bit.
the problem solving side of it more or less came from, you touched on it, Ron, was Dad left home, and give you a list, and you had to figure it out, you know. And if something broke, it wasn't going to matter to them when he got home that, hey, the tractor broke or whatever. You needed to figure it out, So if that meant calling your buddy, hey, man, drive your lawnmower down here. We need to get this grass mowed or whatever. You learned how to problem solve just so you didn't have to call Dad or tell Dad at the end of the day, because we didn't have cell phones and Dad didn't have a cell phone, Like you were given a list on a piece of paper on the counter. Here's what you need to have that needs to happen today if you're not going to work. And it happened. You made it happen because you knew that was the only summer vacation you were getting. So
We were pretty self-sufficient for as young as we were. You know, I look at kids now. You know, Josh, you got kids, you know. Um it's definitely different. We were really self-sufficient at like 9, 10 years old.
Yeah. I look at my kids and I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? Well, we never had to, Dad. Well, you need to learn.
Yeah.
Well, that's what frustrates you with, you know, the people that you work with that don't know how to figure stuff out because
Yeah.
like we had to figure it out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Help wasn't coming.
Okay, so here's a big thing. I always tell my kids that I think that they're kind of lazy because they're always trying to figure out new ways to do things. And it's not really that they're lazy, it's just that and then I thought back, Chris and I, one of our main jobs around the yard was to bring firewood into the house. We had a big 8-foot long, 4-foot wide, 4-foot deep box that it
Wood
was
box,
our
yep.
job. It was our job to keep that sucker full and rotated full of firewood.
Do you
So
carry by
for
hand or with a wheelbarrow?
So for years and years and years, we would bring it all up to the house with the wheelbarrow, dump it all in a pile, and carry it in the house down the steps until one day Chris was like, dude, what if we just open the window? You're tall enough now. Just stand in there, grab it, and stack it. And we took this thing that used to take us, an hour to do and cut it down to 15 minutes. And my dad was actually kind of pissed at us because we made it so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that about, man? Like your folks, you actually think outside the box and you
Right.
take a hard job and you make it easier. And it's like they get upset. Maybe they didn't, but it felt like they got upset with you for cheating the
Right.
system.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you were cheating the system. You beat the system.
Right.
Well, we still got the job done. And
Yeah.
I don't think we ever broke a window. I could be wrong. Chris might have to answer that, but I don't think we ever broke a window.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it shaped our work ethic.
That goes back to they would have had to tell us they were proud of us. That was pretty hard to come by too. So
Getting a
know,
backhanded compliment.
yeah, the backhanded compliment. Not I'm proud of you.
Well, you didn't mess that up, boy.
Yeah, congratulations, you didn't mess up. Yeah,
That's a good one.
Oh man, I can imagine. Who knows what the people that work with me, what they think? Because I mean, that's probably what they get from me now. You know, is it's hard for me to give you an attaboy or an attagirl. You know, it's probably comes in that format. You know.
yeah.
Well, it wasn't terrible. That wasn't too hateful. I don't know. That's probably from growing up that way. But what else, guys? We talk smells. We talk sounds. Traditions of coming home when it gets dark out. I've had more. I probably had as many evening dinner like meals at Buck's kitchen table as I had as my own. You know what I mean? When he said about, just the parents in the neighborhood took us all in and we all sort of looked out for one another that way. And we were what's the word? We were blessed really to grow up in that type, because I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't grow up in rural, maybe grow up in more of an urban setting or something, and you have similar experiences, but it's not the same. And that's why we all get along as a group, because we can relate to one another, having the growing up the way that we did.
Let me ask you guys a question. How far apart were your houses when you guys were growing up? Like as
Half
the
a
crow
mile, maybe.
flies, like
as the crow flies, probably quarter of a mile, half a mile road.
Yeah.
could you cut through the woods to each other's houses or through?
Not so easy.
Not as
Okay.
easy. There's I don't want to like give our location away, but
No. Yeah.
there's one neighbor that didn't want you cut across his property, and then there's a shooting range in between us as well.
Yes.
And we didn't dare go onto that property. So we kind of stuck to the roads for the most part,
Well,
get from one home to the next.
So the reason I asked that is because where Chris and I lived, maybe an eighth of a mile, maybe through the woods, up a pretty steep hill, was a kid about my age. We always called him Bean growing up. But he could do like that loud whistle. I could never do it, but he could do that loud whistle. So if me and Chris were outside, we could just whistle a little bit and he would whistle back. And we were like, okay, cool. James is home. We can go up there and hang out. And then we just cut straight through the woods up to his house. And that was like, I just didn't know if you guys had something like that because we all grew up before cell phones. And
we were far
like-
enough away that we couldn't hear each other whistle. That's for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
But, you know, it was before cell phones. So like Buck's phone number, we had to remember phone numbers, you
Yep.
know, and like to this day, I still know what his home phone number is at his parents' house. Dialed that
Ingrained.
thing many, many, many times. It's ingrained.
Those 7 digits.
Yeah.
Yep. Those 7 digits. That's a real question. How many actual phone numbers from your childhood do you think you could remember?
5 or 6,
Probably,
maybe.
yeah, probably one hand, less than one hand.
Yeah. I'm saying that too.
You know, the important ones.
Yes, sir.
That you dialed all the time. You know, one time, his phone number had like a 9 and a 1 in it. And I remember one time, because I just dialed it every single day. I'd dial as fast as I could. I remember one time I called 911 by accident. And then, you know, it's like, that's not the right number. So I just hung up on them. And they call the house back. And they're like, so that was a little awkward for me as a kid, trying to explain why I called 911, because it wasn't, it was by accident. But yeah, man, we just push through that stuff as quickly as possible.
The best part of my phone, about my home phone number growing up, Josh, and you'll get a kick out of this. It was 1 digit different than the local pizza shop. So we would get calls all the time. People calling Little Italy trying to order a pizza. I cannot tell you how many orders we took over the phone. I'm sure people were pissed when they made it there and their pizza wasn't there, but we took a lot of orders for pizzas.
Just take the order.
And my mom would get so mad. She'd be yelling at us, "You can't do that to people." Oh, no, it's hilarious, Mom. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
That's when you'd
mean.
be called by your full name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mom was breaking out the full legal name at that point. Yeah.
Get you by your government name.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, talk to me a little bit, guys, about somebody that influenced you. And I mean, obviously we've got our parents and our grandparents and things like that, but outside of the immediate family, is there anybody that was a positive influence on you guys growing up? You know, I don't know, like a coach or a neighbor or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say so. He's actually a pretty cool dude. I don't talk to him a whole lot anymore, but we still are in contact. He's a taxidermist. He's done most of the birds that are on my wall.
Mhm.
Anyway, I worked with him for years and years and years. And he was just he's a jack of all trades, really. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those guys that could just do anything almost naturally. But I'm gonna say he's one of the guys, he taught me how to work hard, and how to use my brain and think outside the box. Cause I mean, we were always coming into complicated situations doing, masonry and landscaping and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he was a big influence on my life. So, and then he branched out into his own taxidermy business, and now he's so busy, he's had to hire 2 extra hands. So good on him.
Good problem
I love
to
him.
have.
Yeah. And I miss him. So
Thoughts from your side, Buck?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. And I don't have any from when I was real young that I can really put a finger on. I've been thinking about that since you guys sent that to me, and there's just none that I could really put a finger on. It was kind of the by committee kind of thing,
Right,
that just
right.
being around, there were so many, the parents that treated you like you were their own kid, and it's just a lot of different people in general,
But Buck sent me a something on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and I forget exactly what it was, but we were just talking about, it was this guy talking about, I guess, how kids in Little League, want a slide mitt, a pink slide mitt with sprinkles on it, and these kids are like super soft, and growing up, we had coaches in the dugout burning heaters, you know.
Yeah. We
And
need
so
a
like
chimney in our dugout.
it was a different era. And I just bring it up because I wouldn't say like these guys like heavily influenced me. Frankly, you know, I pushed back on authority a lot as a young guy. Still do, I guess, to some degree, but don't trust the government. But you know, I remember I don't know how old I was. You know, on our baseball team, you only played so many innings, and you had a pitcher that would pitch 3 innings, and then you bring in another pitcher to pitch another 3 innings, and we had good pitching, right? So we had a good couple of kids that could pitch, and I was never a pitcher. But I remember one game, and we were getting older, so it might have been Pony League till I started to pitch a little bit, but for some reason the head coach wasn't there. Okay. And like Buck said, it was like you were raised by committee. So half the team's dad, you know, were coaching third base, coaching first base, in the dugout, keeping us all straight. There was a lot of involvement. And the one boy that grew up with us, his dad was in there, and he was sort of taking over as manager for one game. And it got into a situation late in the game, and we just need to finish the game out. He needed somebody to throw some balls and strikes. I'm like, well, I could throw strikes, you know. Let the guys field the ball, and I'll throw.
Mhm.
And he gave me a chance, and he put me in, and he let me throw the ball. And then I got to pitch a little bit after that. I guess I didn't do too bad that night, but I think that was pretty cool. I hadn't thought about that until we brought up this conversation about, you know, just different people that made an impact, and something small like that. You never know, to a kid in a kid's world, the littlest thing that it can, you know, they'll call back to their remembrance when they're older. So
Yeah.
well, that's cool. What's going on? What's new then, Buck? So I sort of want to like land the plane here. I enjoy talking about this topic. Certainly, you know, we're all cut from the same cloth to some degree, but we mentioned at the start of the show, you've got this new I don't know what you would say, a field staff. Is that how I would frame it up? Field staff with this outdoor group.
The hunt staff.
Okay, hunt staff.
Is how they word it.
So why don't you hit us again with all the sponsors, so people can go out and buy that stuff up?
So it's the outdoor group is the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for what the stuff that we are dealing with on a daily basis, you know, or in our lives, it's, you know, elite bows, ultra arrows, and slick trick broadheads. You know, that's the three main points in there of, you know, product that most of us in this circle are using in our lives regularly. So
Love
right
it,
on.
man. Love it. I'm happy for you. I know that
Me too.
I know it's a passion of yours. So to see you plug in like that's been pretty cool.
What started as just a hey, they need someone to help coach, kind of like our little league days, you know. So maybe those guys, all them dads, maybe they shaped me more than I think. You know, it's kind of like the little league days where, hey, we need a coach, or we need someone on third base, or hey, hit pop ups to these kids. That's kind of how I ended up coaching archery. You know, it
Right.
was these
Just
kids need
stepping up.
someone. These kids need someone. Okay, well, I'm, you know, I know a little bit, and well, okay, well, I got you this far, now, you know, and now I try and be a sponge myself
Mm-hmm.
to absorb as much of this stuff as I can, so that I can pass it on too. You know, our famous line we tell kids all the time, like, I want to be a catapult. Like, you
Yeah.
tell me where you want to end up, and that's where we want to point you. And we're gonna load you up as hard as we can, and we're gonna send it. You know,
Yeah.
I want to.
Launch. Do like a launch night.
Yep, I want to get you to where you want to be. You know, but you got to buy in too. You know, you got to want to be there.
That's awesome. That's a great
Right on.
message too. And
That
those
is a
kids are
great
fortunate.
message. Wow.
Fortunate is probably the word I was looking for earlier. But those kids are fortunate to be, have that surrounding and upbringing. So we dig it, man. Josh, what's going on? What's new with you right now? Anything new going on going into summer?
Well, yeah, we have a lot going on, but I don't know that we're ready to talk about a lot of it yet, Ron. So we have a lot going on.
Well,
Something else real quick, Ron. We're always on here. We're always talking about how we network with each other. Just last weekend, the Raise the Full Draw guys, I know Darren was on. He hasn't been on for a while, but Darren Snow, we connected actually. He was having a camp and needed temporary facilities that my company offers, and we were able to connect over that, and it was kind of cool because yeah, we have the facilities and we could do the job regardless, but Darren was like, you have that? Your company does that? Yeah. Well, then you guys have the job. Like, it's yours.
It's connections.
It's yours to do, man. Like, so, the connections you make and the friendships outside, that you make with these people in the outdoors, it means something,
Yeah, it does.
sure.
And, so our brand is all about, the Tracks and Tackle podcast just started out as telling stories. And that's kind of like the heart of the roundtable segment that we do, is like sitting around the campfire. The campfire is very symbolic of storytelling, but beyond the podcast, I was talking to Josh before we got on here. We started the podcast in 2023, around July-ish, and we're going into July. This will probably air in July of 2026. So we're going into third year strong, and have been very strategic about our guests, regional guests, and building bridges and trying to create relational equity with everybody. And that's what you're talking about, Buck. The people that we meet, it goes to serve you well. And we've always been a promoter of other people's brands. We've never
sure.
been gatekeepers on things like that. But with that said, we've always said we don't sell anything. We're just here to tell stories. But this month we just rolled out the Tracks and Tackle Supply web store. And in the web store, some of the people that we've met over the years and built relational equity with, like our friend Tom over at the Scrape Rope Company, we're offering his product. We have our buddy Eddie Weber down in Maryland, who has high octane custom baits. We're offering his product and a lot more. And the thing that we always say is hunt your hunt the way that you want to do it. Like, don't let us tell you how to do it. And I got a message. I want to play this for the audience.
At Tracks and Tackle, we've always said one thing, and that's hunt your hunt any way you want to do it. You want to go chase whitetails with a bow or sit in a blind in the early morning with your family? You want to go run public land or chase birds with your... We all know there's no one singular way to go out and get the job done. So that's why we at Tracks and Tackle are excited to bring you the Hunt Your Hunt line of shirts, hoodies, and hats. Real gear for real people. Up early, out late, run in the woods, run in the water. Bringing outdoors back to what it should be. Respect for each other, respect for the hunt, respect for nature, and respect for everybody's choice to do it the way that they choose to do it. Tracksandtackle.com. Check it out. All the gear that you need, plus every penny from every purchase goes right back into the show so that we can keep the stories and the traditions coming your way. Show us some love. Tracksandtackle.com.
What a celebrity we've got
Look at
on
Josh
the
with
podcast.
the infomercial.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? He's got more up his sleeve, but we rolled out the Tracks and Tackle Supply store, and give it a check it out, guys. Like I said, everything that we're offering on there, we're supporting people that we know, and we just wanted to create create something that is this next step in our hunting community that we're building. So go online. It's tracksandtackle.com. Check it out and, support the show because these guys
Right.
like Buck and Josh, Chris isn't on tonight. Josh just hopped in. He's pinch hitting as a co-host. We got a good group of guys that are all very invested in the product and the show, and I couldn't be happier with the community that we're building.
Right on. Me too, bud. I love you guys. I mean, like Ron was saying, some of you guys we talk to more than we talk to some of our own family members, which is both sad and incredible. So,
yeah. Well, with that, guys, I certainly appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. We'll do a quick rapid fire. Favorite piece of advice you'd give a young guy growing up in rural USA today? Shoot.
Don't trust a man who don't carry a pocket knife.
Good advice. Sage.
that's a good one.
Josh,
good one.
one thing you miss most about back then?
Freedom. Oh, freedom to roam. Yeah.
Freedom from responsibilities.
Simple life, man. The simple life.
Yeah.
It's been a good episode, guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Anybody else that's been with us this long, man, give us a like, give us a share, tell a friend, go check out the store. And until next time, remember, nature is our playground. Stay wild.